it's Nembang, and welcome to the latest series on Mania here live at Fintech Talents Festival in London. Today I've got the pleasure of introducing our guest, Chip Mahan from Sage. So Chip, welcome to the Enfuce Sauna.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourself, Sage, and tell us a bit about your role.
Sure. Chip Mahan. I'm the global head of Fintech at Sage, and that's kind of a mouthful. Sage is an accounting ERP platform, a global platform, serving millions of small and medium-sized businesses worldwide. My role in particular is to work with outside partners in fintech to identify the right types of solutions that we can help solve for the 100 of other jobs our customers have and the pain points they have outside of accounting, right? Mm-hmm. So they have to make payroll payments, they have to pay their suppliers, they have to reconcile their bank feeds and all these kinds of things that they will have to work out day in and day out in their business. So my job and my organization's role is to really find those right solutions to solve those pain points and have them embedded as a core feature of our accounting software.
That sounds great. So I saw that you're speaking today at the Fintech Talents Conference as well. Tell us about your panel and how it went.
Sure. We had a panel on embedded finance, and embedded finance means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, right? So it includes, in my mind, it includes things like payments, it includes accounts, it includes card issuance, and also it includes lending, which is critical for all businesses, access to cash. Yeah. And so we talked about, what are some of the unique use cases that we're finding in platforms like Sage to be able to solve for those customer pain points, and how do we take those embedded financial services and make them core features within our platforms. We talked about, some of the unique needs in terms of scale, in terms about, the data that you need to be able to support those types of activities and services. And so it was interesting to have the conversation and talk about where we kind of see things heading in the future.
Yeah, no, exactly. And in terms of the biggest opportunities as well in the B2B space, what do you think that these opportunities are in the embedded finance space in 2025 that you see?
I think there's huge opportunity for businesses because, like I said, in those four areas, when I think about embedded finance, payments is really critical for customers, the ability to accept payments and make payments to their suppliers and also receive payments from their customers. But it's also around, things like card issuing, things like accounts for banks, things like lending, which we focus heavily on at Sage. And I think, there's a real opportunity in this space because when you look at this globally and you think about the first movers, in addition to solving for the customer pain points, for solving that business need, businesses like Sage and others need to think about, well, we're in business also to drive revenue, right? So how do I find additional revenue sources for my business outside of my traditional SaaS fees? If you look at the folks that have been first movers in this space, in the embedded finance space, people like Lightspeed and Shopify, Toast, for example, over 50% of their underlying revenue comes from these fintech services versus their standard SaaS fees. So there's huge opportunity. It's I think the Boston Consulting Group recognized it's about 185 billion TAM that's associated this globally and only has about 20% penetration. So there's just really, really large upside on the revenue piece of that. The other thing I think about is for a platform like Sage, an ERP platform, we have the unique ability to be able to really focus on the customer journey through that, customer workflow, because we control that in the way that they run their business when they're in their accounting platform as a front office tool. We have the unique ability to be able to influence that customer workflow. So embedding these types of services within that workflow just makes natural sense. The other thing I think about when I think about platforms like Sage, in embedded finances, we also have the unique ability to pull data from the general ledger. Right. Whereas other, types of the payment side or the banking side, they don't have access to that data. Matter of fact, they're seeking that data and they ask it from the client, or their customer. And so we eliminate that need for the business to have to make application for a loan, for example, because we can pull the data directly from the general ledger, right, all the way from application to approval, so the customer doesn't have to deal with all the kinds of forms, sending in documents, and all the things that they had to do in the past. And the last thing when I think about this space, I think about what's really kind of lies for the future. And I think about AI, generative AI, right? Obviously, we're talking a lot about that here today, and it really is changing the game and the way businesses operate. So you think about like in the lending space, you can use data out of our accounting platform to do predictive analysis, because I know, you'll be able to look at what are the accounts receivable, how often do they receive it, how often are their customers late in payments, so I know what my cash flow may be, and I can start looking at some of these trends associated across, the general ledger to make predictions about what the customer may need. So for example, I'd be able to say 6 weeks from now, you're going to be short on cash flow. Therefore, you're not going to be able to pay your employees. You're going to need cash. So we offer not only the predictive analytics to say that, but also the solution to then say, okay, well, here's 4 loans you're eligible for now based on the platform we have that you can access, and here are the terms and financing and so on.
Yeah, no, those are really excellent insights. And I think the main underlying thing to streamline the process for your customers is definitely what sets it all apart, and a really big opportunity. So from the partnership side as well, how do you think partnerships will be able to help people to help innovation in the B2B space as well?
Yeah, the way we look at partnerships and the way I look at partnerships is it really helps you in terms of getting access to a service and scaling it very quickly, right? It's about timing. And, it's always under the old adage of, do I build, do I partner, or do I buy? And oftentimes, if you're going to build, that's a fairly lengthy process. Not only that, but, one, do you have the competency for that type of service? Is it really in your wheelhouse? Yeah. 2, you have to think about all the regulatory and compliance needs that are associated with it. And do you really want to get under that umbrella, if you would? And so when I think about partnerships, it really allows scalability and speed to market. And it also really is, like I said, it's their core competency, right? So we've partnered, like on the lending side, we've partnered with a company called Swoop, which is a global platform that's a data-driven platform that drives the analytics from the general ledger, the data out of the general ledger, to offer whole-of-market financing for businesses, for loans, savings, grants, and the like. And so being able to use a partner like that allows us to provide access to all kinds of applications that traditionally we would never get access to.
Exactly. So now when it comes to Sage, for over 40 years, you've enabled small businesses to do more. How do you think that you stay ahead of the curve decade after decade at Sage?
I think, one of the things we always start with is the customer, right? Inevitably. And we work really hard to hear the voice of the customer. What is it that our business customers are telling us to say? What are the pain points that they're dealing with? We also work heavily with the accounting network, or the accountants network, who are the trusted advisors of most of our customers. And so what are they dealing with in their advisory services? What are the things they need to help support them? And so it's trying to stay ahead of those not only trends, but pain points that you're hearing about in the market. And the other thing is, you have to be innovative, right? Absolutely. You can't just deal with the here and now. You got to be thinking about what's going to happen in the market 5 and 10 years from now. Exactly. And what are some of the predictions and big bets that you're going to make to say, hey, in another 5 years, we're going to have this situation, and how do we start preparing for that now versus being a fast follower?
Exactly. Yeah, and we were seeing that a lot too. I know you've already touched on it in terms of AI, so I guess that's an example to stay ahead of the curve. But lastly, what game-changing trends and topics have you seen at the event so far?
Yeah, I think it comes back to AI. Yeah, I really do. I think, the game changer is really artificial intelligence and where we're moving in that direction. And we've just barely scratched the surface, we being, a society. It's a little scary.
It is.
I have to be honest, because, it's funny, I was talking to somebody the other day about, they were using AI to build this new business around, call centers, right? So, developing scripts for call center employees to be able to have a script that when I talk to you on the phone and I'm trying to sell you something, that I have a very informative script about you specifically. And you think about, okay, well, will that eventually replace that person? Or, are we ever going to go that far? But I mean, it is scary in some senses, but it's a good scary because it makes us really think. I think technology does that, right? Yeah. As technology advances, advances. It makes us think about what do we need to be doing different to drive our businesses.
No, exactly. So yeah, all very excellent insights. And thank you so much for being a guest onto Money Mania here at
Thank you for
Enfuce.
having me. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.